Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of week 4. In this lesson, we are going to look at the CSS box model and the components that makes the box model. We are first of all going to look at borders, and then we'll look at the paddings. We're going to look at the margins and then the height and the width of the element. In HTML, if we want to create a container on the page, we can use the div tag. Now on the page, I already have my div element here, and within the element I put in some text, and on the web page we can see the text on the page. But the div tag doesn't do anything without being styled, and the first style we want to use on the div tag is the border property. In CSS we have various border properties, and we have a single border shorthand property. So we are going to look at them one after the other. The first border property we are going to look at is the border style property. When you use border style in CSS, you can specify the style of the border, whether you want it to be dashed, dotted, double, solid, ridge. There are several styles you can use for your border. Every element has 4 sides. We have the left, the top, the right, and the bottom of the element. We can style each of them differently, and so instead of writing the border style, we can write border top style dash, and we can put a border right style. We can put this ridge, border left style. We can put this double, and border bottom style. We can make the border bottom style groove. When I save this and I refresh my page, I have different types of border for the different sides of the element. You can specify a color for the border, and we write border color like this, and you specify the color using any type of color value as we have learned previously. So this did not apply the color to my border, so I have border style must be there before the border color can take effect, and so we have the color as red. You can also specify colors for individual sides of the elements, so we can do border top color, then we have border bottom color, and we want that color to be blue, and we'll do the same thing for left and right, but I'll do for top and bottom, and we'll leave left and right as the default black. So this is how you can specify different colors for the different sides of the border. Or we can have the border color property and specify 2 values like this, and let's say we have red and we have green. When you have 2 values like this, the first one is for top and bottom, the second one is for left and right. When I refresh, I have top and bottom red, left and right green. You can also have 3 values, red, green, blue, and when you have 3 values like this, the first value is going to be for top, the first value is going to be for top, the second value is going to be for left and right, and the last value, the third value, is going to be for bottom. If we specify 4 values, we're going to have 1 value for top, 1 value for right, bottom, and left. So this is how we do the border color property. We also have another property called the border width. You want to see the size of the border or the size of the line. So I can specify 10px to make it thicker. Refresh my page and I have a thicker border. You can also have a single border property, just border, and specify everything in one declaration. We want to put the width as, let's make it smaller, 5px. We want the border to be solid, and we want the color to be save, refresh, and I specified everything in one declaration. So this is how we create borders in CSS. So remember that in HTML, when you have the div tag, nothing happens without styling the div tag. We use the div tag to create containers on the page. We can style the div with various styles using CSS. When we have an element within a border, there is something that comes before the border that creates space around the element, and we call that the padding. You can put 1 padding value to apply to all sides, so you want a space between the border and the element, and so you have a 5px space surrounding this. Or you can decide to pad each side differently, so you have padding top, padding left, padding right, padding bottom. Or you want to specify 3 values and do 1 for top, 1 for left and right, and 1 for bottom in the case of 3 values, and in the case of 2 values you have 1 for left and right, 1 for top and bottom. So we'll just use padding to specify 1 padding value around the 4 sides of the element. Now remember that the padding comes between the element and the border. We have another thing that we set outside of the border, and we call this the margin. The margin is set outside of the border, and we use it to create space around the entire document. So they apply to the whole document outside of the border. You can specify a margin property like this using a single margin, and it creates a margin around the whole page. So the margin is going to apply top, bottom, left, and right. And I can put a margin of 10 px, save, refresh, and we'll have a margin here, applies to the whole element. Now this margin is on the div tag, not on the body element, so it's going to apply only around the div. We can also specify the margin, like margin left, margin right, margin top, margin bottom. We can put the margin on the body element so that it can apply on the whole page. If I change this to body, I'll have the style apply on the whole page. So I'll put this as div. So you can put the margin left, right, top, bottom. You can group the margins and specify the margins for it, or you can actually set the value as auto so that the browser calculates the margin. So these are the ways to specify values for margins in CSS. Now we have the height and the width of an element. Now we have this border, but the height and the width is not specified. So let's say we want this container to have a specific height and a specific width. So let me say I want this height to be 500 pixels and I want the width to be, I want it to be 300 pixels wide. I will save this, refresh my page. So we now have a fixed width for this container. And now because I specify the margin as auto, it centers this element on the page. If I remove the margin from being auto to 10 pixels, this is not going to be centered. It's going to be on the side. So that's one of the advantages of making the margin auto, depending on your design and what it is that you want to see. Now, the disadvantage of using width and specify a fixed width is that if you have a small device, the container can flow outside of the screen area and you need to start scrolling left and right, up and down. And for this, we use a property called max width. So you want the browser to set the width based on the device and will make it auto. Once you do this, you have created a responsive container that resizes based on the screen size of the user. So this is going to be automatic based on screen size, and when you see that we make our page smaller, the width continues to resize to the smallest size of the screen. We make it wider, it resizes to the large size of the screen. So we use the width property to set fixed width, max width property, and a value of auto to ensure that the container is responsive. We also have properties like mean height, max height, mean width that we can specify based on what your design specification are. And so with this, we have discussed everything that makes up the box model in CSS. Now when we talk about the box model, we're talking about the whole content, the padding, the borders, and the margin all together is called the box model. Now when you put this width and height of an element, it only affects the content area. It's not the width and height of the whole element or the whole page. When you want to calculate the total size of an element, you have to factor in the margins, the borders, the padding, and the width of the container. So to get the total width now of this container, you are going to calculate, so I'm going to write that here. Width now will be equal to the width that we specified. Let's say we specified a fixed value width here to be 200 pixels. So it's going to be the total width now for the box model will be the width plus. Now when we talk about width, we're talking of left to right. So it's going to be the width plus the value of the left padding, right? And the left padding is going to be 5 pixels because we put the value of 5 for all side, plus the value of the right, plus the value of the right padding, plus the value of the left border. The border is 5 pixels for all side. Value of the right border, plus the value of the left margin and the value of the right margin. So you add the width plus the left padding plus the right padding plus the left border plus the right border plus the left margin plus the right margin to get the total width of an element. And then for the height, it's going to be the height plus the top padding and the bottom padding plus the top margin and bottom padding, margin plus the top border and the bottom border. So height is top and bottom, width is left and right, and this is how we calculate the total elements width and height, and this is what defines the CSS box model. When we create an element like this and we have the border, there's something called an outline that we can use in CSS. And what an outline is it's just a line under the border that makes the elements to stand out. It's not like it doesn't affect the box model or the changes the calculation of the width or the height or anything about it. It's just like an outline that has no effect on the box model. So let's put an outline. There are various outline properties in CSS. We have the outline style, we have the outline color, we have the outline width, we have the outline offset. So let's start with the outline style. We want an outline that is dashed. We also want the outline color to be gray. We want to have the outline width, that is how thick it is, to be, so we can use thin, thick, medium, or we can specify fixed values like 5 pixels, 10 pixels, using any of the approved length measurement units. I want it to be medium. And then we also have the outline offset, which specifies the space between the outline and the border of the elements. Now you know that outline can overlap with other elements since it is not part of the box model. So we can have the outline offset to be, we can use inherit, or we can just specify units, let's say 2 pixels. Save. When I refresh, we'll see that outside of the border there's going to be an outline that makes it stand out based on what we specified. Or you can use a single outline property like this and specify all the values in one declaration. So you can specify the outline style. Let's say I want this to be rich, I want the outline color to be red, I want the outline offset to be 2 pixels, or the thickness and the offset. Save, refresh my page, and I have, I put 2 values. I want it to be rich, I want it to be red, and I want it to be 2 pixels. Refresh, and I have my outline on the page. So this is how we use outlines in CSS, and this is where we end this lesson. In the next lesson we are going to look at backgrounds.